Welcome back to Big Riff Energy. It's episode 38. Today is Tuesday, November 21st, coming up on Thanksgiving. Hope everybody is having a smooth and relatively stress-free holidays. I know it can be a tough time of year, but we will get through it as we do every year. Hey, man, thank you to the mentally unhinged Babymetal fans that made the last episode the most streamed episode on YouTube to date. Thank you. Thank you. I was kind of unaware of what was going on until people started letting me know. This is my only online presence. You can hear this podcast streaming audio. You can watch me talk on YouTube if that's your thing. But I don't do Instagram. I don't do Twitter. I don't do anything like that. But apparently what happened, and this was unintentional. I didn't really see this coming. I guess there really are some out there people who have based their entire identities on this Babymetal thing. I hesitate to call it a band because it's really not a band. But a lot of them on Twitter, which as we know is a breeding ground for very stable, well-measured behavior, you know, these folks assembled like the pedophile Power Rangers. It was really, I guess, this like one person who is like self-appointed. I mean, it's kind of the same behavior as like QAnon or something like that. They're in this fantasy in their head that they are like the central figure in this like war to defend the honor of Babymetal. And we see this kind of pathological behavior in a lot of different spheres. You know, Donald Trump has fans like that. There's the QAnon people. There's extremists in, you know, organized religion. And yeah, just like fantasy world behavior. And the actual language, I'm not going to quote it directly. I didn't take the time to like save all these screen caps and stuff like that. But they were like, hey guys, this dude on YouTube is defaming Babymetal. I think it's time to cancel him right now. That's their words. I don't use that cancel. Nobody, look, that ship has sailed. Nobody gives a fuck about canceling people anymore, least of all me. I don't pay attention to Twitter or anything like that. So cancel away. Because what happened is you guys are paying my water bill for the month, the next few months, actually. So thank you. I appreciate that. I avoid talking about, this show is called Big Riff Energy. That's it. And there's offshoots of what contributes to cultivating big riff energy. You know, you might get an idea for a big riff from watching a movie or looking at a painting or going out in nature or going to a show or whatever. So, but the central discussion here is big riff energy. What is it? How do you harness it? How do you cultivate it? So I do not talk about popular mainstream topics. I mean, I'll happen to talk about something that's popular, like Black Sabbath or whatever, if it has big riff energy, right? But I tend to stray from, I put a concerted effort into avoiding talking about anything mainstream or pop culture because most of that shit is the antithesis of big riff energy. I got attracted to extreme music and rock and roll and big riffs because of the sound and the feeling it gave me, but also this sense of self-autonomy, independence, independent action, independent thought, you know, wild, unique personalities, thinking for yourself, individuality, right? And most mainstream and pop culture stuff, like I said, is the antithesis of that. So why would I talk about it on a show called Big Riff Energy? It has nothing to do with my life at all. Until it does, right? Until it starts intersecting into the spheres of big riffs. And that's when I have a fucking problem. And that's when I have to say something or do something. there's plenty of dudes talking about what is Corey Taylor doing? Oh my God, did you see John 5 and Mick Mars? What did Mick Mars say about... I'm going to read you something from an issue of Current Psychology. Evidence indicates that poor mental health is correlated with celebrity worship. Researchers have examined the relationship between celebrity worship and mental health. One study found evidence to suggest that the intense personal celebrity worship dimension was related to higher levels of depression and anxiety. Similarly, another study in 2004 found that the intense personal celebrity worship dimension was not only related to higher levels of depression and anxiety, but also levels of stress, higher levels of stress, negative affect, and reports of illness. I'm not going to bore you with like a TED talk here, but here's another one from the NIH, National Institute of Health, which, granted, doesn't seem to know what the fuck they're talking about half the time, but I tend to agree with them here. Findings reveal that individuals with high scores on celebrity worship scales tend to display a number of psychosocial characteristics. Hey, it's like the Corey Taylor song. For example, these individuals may harbor concerns about body image, be more prone to cosmetic surgery, and have a personality style characterized by sensation-seeking cognitive rigidity, which means you're a dumbass and you can't learn anything as you go. Identity diffusion means you don't know who the fuck you are, no individuality, and poor interpersonal boundaries, all of which I experienced in the fallout of the Babymetal episode. Likewise, celebrity worshipers may exhibit narcissistic features, dissociation, addictive tendencies, I can relate to that one, stalking behavior, and compulsive buying. They're also more likely to have poorer mental health, as well as clinical symptoms of depression, anxiety, social dysfunction. Okay, why am I rattling off all this shit? There's only been a couple of times that I've experienced the weird cult-like reactive behavior to something that I said or did. I don't want to crack open the whole can of worms again, but the last time this happened was Limp Bizkit fans. I think in 2020, I was doing a podcast interview, and the podcast is about Metallica. So I was talking about the first time I saw Metallica, 2003. I was 15 years old. And they took a bunch of bands that I don't like on tour with them. And they took a bunch of bands that like actual metal fans don't like on tour with them. Despite the fact that in 2003, there were tons of great bands they could have taken on. I mean, they could have taken Testament, Overkill, whatever. They could have made it like a whole old school thrash thing. There's a million different things they could have done. Could have taken Neurosis, could have taken Mastodon, High on Fire, any Pig Destroyer, whatever. Maybe that wouldn't make sense, but tons of great, legitimate, newer, relevant metal bands operating in 2003. Granted, it was kind of, a light period for Big Riff Energy, but it was still out there. They took Mudvayne, Deftones, Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit. I don't like any of those bands. Mudvayne was by far the best, and that ain't good. When Limp Bizkit played, okay, so earlier in the day, I'm there, 15 years old, there with my friend Lane. Lane at the time was an absolute maniac. If we didn't like something, we didn't go on Twitter and cancel it. We actually had to do something in real life, right? When we first got to this stadium, security was handing out like grilled cheese sandwiches and peanut butter sandwiches in tinfoil. And Lane was like running around grabbing as many as he could from different people. You're going to eat that? No, okay, go. I mean, he was like hoarding these things. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? We already ate. And he said, dude, Limp Bizkit's playing later. So when they played, we were insulted to our core at the fact that they were direct support to Metallica, and we did something about it. And I talked about that in this podcast. It got turned into clickbait like several weeks in a row. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't even know this band had fans. It's a very strange thing to see a band that, the majority of the younger fans today seem to be pretty intelligent, like forward thinking and progressive and sort of left leaning. But dude, back in the day, you guys would have been canceling the shit out of this band. You would have, you would have hated everything about Limp Bizkit. But for some reason now, you know, good press and good marketing and stuff, it's like they're okay. But you would have been right there with us. Believe me. And I talked about this on that podcast in 2020, and people reacted as if I had just done this the day before as a grown man. And I was like, we had just put a record out, so I was kind of paying attention to what was going on. And dude, the hatred is fucking hilarious. I grew up in a time where you got bullied in real life, so like cyberbullying isn't real. Hate to tell you, you can just like turn your phone off, turn your computer off. It's not real. So it's never bothered me. But I thought it was fascinating, like the ferocity and the, I don't know, just knee-jerk like rage that this elicited out of these. It was just like a cult type of behavior. So I really try to avoid talking about anything even borderline mainstream or trendy or whatever. Because I don't give a fuck. Like, did I go to a Limp Bizkit show to throw shit at them? No, I went to a Metallica show. Limp Bizkit was there. We fucking hated Limp Bizkit because we like real music and, you know, real art and sincerity. And we don't like frat boy, douchey, date rape, fucking homophobic type shit. And so we did something about it. So I talked about it. This Babymetal thing, only reason I talked about it is because I was getting all these weird comments from like Japanese idol industry type bands. And I thought, man, this is bizarre. Like, you know, there's no way that anybody would think that I would like any of this shit. And then I started thinking about Babymetal and how creepy that was. Because I looked and saw that they were founded and initially managed by a big Japanese idol industry conglomerate, you know? So that's the only reason I talked about it. So this is going to be the last fucking time I talk about it, but I just wanted to go over the types of responses I got because it was fascinating. So type 1, the script, very odd. It read almost like AI, but it could have been real people either like sitting, I don't know, in an office, you know, doing that. They're just kind of like automating damage control on any key words that pop up, such as Babymetal, child molester, pedophile, shit like that. So it's either some sort of like automated bots, or it might be, people whose job it is to like do damage control. These are just theories. Again, the scarier thought is that it's actual fans. You know, the day I did that Babymetal episode, that night I watched a thing on Jonestown, and when they went, if you don't know, Jonestown was like a mass suicide cult led by this Jim Jones, fucking grifter, con artist, cokehead, sociopath, whatever. And they went down, you know, a congressman and some news people went down, tried to interview these people. Yes, I'm happy here. Yeah, you know, they're like reading off of a script with this flat affect, negative affect, as we talked about earlier. And it just, you know, it fucking brainwashed. So type 1 of the Babymetal, you know, defensive network, the script. If it's bots, that's kind of creepy. If it's people that work for their management that are sitting in an office, firing off slightly reworded versions of the exact basic same script, that's creepy. But if it's fans, that's even creepier. If it's real people, that's even creepier because they're in a fucking cult. They're in a cult. They're like totally fucking brainwashed. And it brought up the exact same points, you know. It would mention, well, they've taken pictures with Rob Halford. They've taken pictures, played with Dragon Force. And so you're saying those people are supporting this? And yeah, in a roundabout way, yeah. I don't think Rob Halford is directly even aware of anything that's going on. Bands at that level have people probably with the same sociopath grifter gene that Jim Jones was born with, handling all their business because the entertainment industry facilitates and rewards people like that. You know, you're telling me there's no Japanese Harvey Weinstein? Are you fucking, how naive could you possibly be? Harvey Weinstein is not the exception. He's the rule when it comes to operating at that high level of the entertainment industry or the corporate environment. Anybody that's dealt with corporate stuff or high-powered anything knows that everybody at that level got a little Weinstein in them, you know? It's just like, how much do you have, right? The other bullet point on the scripted response was something like, well, these girls are 20 years old now. If there were pedophile fans, they wouldn't have fans anymore, which is like, that's not sound logic at all, A. And they would say, you know, this is played out. You're 10 or 12 years late on this. You know why I'm 10 or 12 years late on this? You know, the band was formed in 2010. I'll tell you why. I don't pay attention to manufactured pop culture, quote unquote, bands that have 10 and 12-year-old people up front singing karaoke. You do. You do. That's my whole fucking point. You were paying attention to a band that had 10 and 12 and 15-year-olds in it. Oh, man. So that's the type A response, the script, right? Type B response was on the other end. I would call these like the Alex Jones, everything is a vast organized pedophile conspiracy and they're turning the frickin' frogs gay reaction. If you don't get that reference, there's all kinds of memes out there. Check it out. But these people are out there kind of with the same mindset as the Babymetal fans, but in the opposite direction. They think that every single thing that happens in the world is some sort of highly organized conspiracy involving God knows what, controlling people's energies and using, well, I don't know, human trafficking ring. So that's type B, is like the Alex Jones kind of type people. The type C reaction was the most frightening to me, and that's the real people. And, you know, this is the last time I'm going to look through comments. I sort of did the episode as an experiment. I was poking a beehive to see what the reaction of these type of people would be. And sure enough, if I was a little bit suspicious that there's weird shit going on before, 10 times more suspicious and weirded out now. If I was a detective trying to solve a crime and I had a suspect pool and one of the suspects was acting the way these Babymetal fans were, that's my guy, right? And type C, the real people, I would go through and look. And we had a guy that said some weird unhinged shit about, I used to think it was only about the girls, and I realized there's so much more to Babymetal. No, there's not. And I proudly walk down the street in my Babymetal shirt, and I don't worry about what people think. And it was really weird. And again, sort of like this dude's living in a fantasy world where he's in like some Star Wars type scenario where he's being persecuted by this evil empire that doesn't want him to like Babymetal, and he's the Rebel Alliance. And it's very similar to like the QAnon people. Fantasy bullshit. I looked at this guy's videos, and no kidding, he had made and uploaded a video that was a tribute to the victims of Ted Bundy. And if you look at this guy, it's like, it's a Ted Bundy in training, man. I had another guy, I can't even laugh about this. I had another guy that basically said, look, there's pedophiles out there for sure. And a lot of even the scripted responses said, we'll give you that there's probably a large percentage of Babymetal fans that are pedophiles, but, you know, and so much of this, the response was as if they get accused of this on a daily basis. Like these people are just ready to go. So there's probably something wrong if you find yourself in that situation. But I had this one guy in particular, real guy, I looked. I think I'm getting pretty good at telling the difference between a bot and a real freakazoid, you know. But this guy said something about like, yeah, there's pedophiles out there. So it's actually a good thing to have stuff out there like Babymetal, where these girls look really young, and these guys can basically, I don't know if he meant like physically act on it or mentally act on it, but these guys can basically like appease or soothe their pedophile urges, but they're not actually doing it with children. To that guy, all right, before I say anything to that guy, I'm going to say that the main thing I felt during this whole process was sad. And I'm going to try to like not laugh at any of this. I'm not doing a fucking bit or anything. What I like, the main takeaway here is there are so many lonely, sad, scared, aimless people out there that are suffering. And I like, if you're a pedophile, fuck you, period. Obviously, there's people that like Babymetal that aren't. I know that, you know. And if you're a person that has, you know, latched onto this thing to give yourself a sense of purpose or something like that, I feel bad about that. I really do. I'm sorry. That sucks and that's terrible. And man, I feel like there is such a insidious like epidemic of people that don't have a purpose and that don't have real genuine face-to-face human connection and the fulfillment of like those sort of emotionally gratifying relationships with other people. And so you're going to find communities online or little shit to obsess about. I get that. I'm like obsessed with horror movies and shit, and I love that culture and that passionate fan base. Same with metal, stuff like that. To the guy that said, well, it's actually a good thing we have these young looking girls so the pedophiles can fantasize. Go get a red gas can. Gas is kind of expensive now. I get it. Fill that thing up, walk into a parking lot, pour it over your head, light yourself on fire. You don't need to be in the world with the rest of us. And that's all I got to say about that. It definitely mimicked a lot of the behavior of suicide cults, you know, Heaven's Gate. Here's the thing, man. There's these old sayings that are cliche because they're true. You know, there's a sucker born every minute. And I think there's a lot of profound truth in that. There's people born, I think, I'm going to try to not be too cynical here. 80% of the population, let's say 70 to 80% of the population, born with the sucker gene. You can call it the sucker gene, the sheep gene. How else do you think organized religion has taken such a foothold on this earth? So 70, 80% born with the sucker gene, right? They're subconsciously or unconsciously looking to be told what to do by somebody else. 10%, no, let's see. 20 to 25% of the people are born with the whatever, leave me alone gene. I'm going to do my own thing, try to get through life. And I'm not really going to fall for anybody's bullshit, but I'm also just going to, you know, keep an open mind, whatever. I'll call it the I don't really care gene. They're not really looking for like a sales pitch or a religion or a whatever. They're doing their own thing. Very prevalent in Gen X. That's why I get along with Gen Xers so well. So that leaves, whatever, I can't do math, 5 to 10%. And this is scary. 5 to 10% of people are born with a sociopath, manipulator, cult leader gene. Jim Jones. Pretty much any politician. Genghis Khan, he probably had he probably had that gene. And they know that 70 to 80% of the population is sitting there waiting to be their slaves, you know? And I feel like people that are obsessed with celebrities and mainstream shit like Babymetal and stuff like that, Limp Bizkit, Resurgence, think about which gene you have, you know? I got attracted to metal dudes like Jimi Hendrix because I'm just like, what a fucking freak this guy is in a good way, right? I mean, doing his own thing. Do your own thing, man. You don't have to like Babymetal just because a lot of other people do, you know. You don't have to vote for somebody just because you self-identify as part of a tribe either, you know. This is how, cults and organized religions, which are basically just cults with more people and more money that are tax exempt. That's how that stuff really digs in. I'm sure that I'm preaching to the choir here for the most part. The fact that Babymetal is not going to be in the title of this video, none of these fools are even going to see it. But if I can help out one person, get them on the path to big riff energy and away from the creepy, weird groupthink, fucking psychotic shit, then I've done my job. Oh yeah, and I will say, closing statement of my TED Talk, man, weaklings, these Babymetal defenders, you guys must really not love them that much. Because when I said the crazy shit about Limp Bizkit, dude, they were on me for like 2-3 weeks, legitimately. And it didn't help that it got turned into clickbait in like a couple weeks in a row by different publications. But I will tip my hat to the Limp Bizkit fans. Way more tenacious. Way more tenacious. The Babymetal wimps gave up in 24 hours. Sad. Sad. You must really not care that much about Babymetal. You've devoted your whole personality to it, and you could only attack me for a mere 24 hours. Okay, going to some emails. All right, one of the guys in the Alex Jones camp, I fucking love you. My old bandmate Thor, you know I love you, dude. And I'm open. I love the conspiracy shit too, man. I love it. Thor wrote me an email about, oh man, like Don Arden, who managed Black Sabbath, and his mafia ties, and how they use groupies as whatever, like a bartering system and this and that. And he was talking about Charles Manson and how he was making snuff films. And there's a book, people talk about Chaos. I don't know, it's about the Manson family stuff, and theorizing that he was like a CIA experiment, which we know it's been what's called declassified, that the CIA was doing experiments with LSD. We don't have any evidence that, I mean, there's some stuff there that maybe Manson was a CIA experiment, whatever. I'm not going to read Thor's entire email because it's fucking too wild. Too wild even for Big Riff Energy. What I will say, Thor, let me remind you of the fact that only one of us, or maybe you did, I don't know. Only one or two of us had a letter from Charles Manson himself. And boy, howdy, was that shit scary. I burned it in Phoenix. I'm sorry. I probably could have sold it on eBay for a bunch of money or given it to you, Thor. But I felt like it was cursed, and I think I burned it in the year 2012 because I didn't want the Charles Manson energy in my life. But that's a story for a different time. Thor's primary question here was, what are some of your favorite, quote, big dumb riff death metal records? Big dumb riff. That's the key here. Are you a Bolt Thrower fan? Sort of. I'm not. I'm a little confused by the surge of Bolt Thrower worship in the last few years. Not to disparage anybody, but particularly because of the drums, it's almost just like hard for me to listen to some of the stuff. They got riffs. I like their riffs a lot. I love Carl Willett's vocals. I met that dude in Birmingham, England. And talked to him for a long time before I even realized who it was. Super cool guy. Great vocalist. Memoriam is great. I do like the Fourth Crusade a lot. I was listening to that a lot right when I got sober. I was running every day, and I listened to the Fourth Crusade. And man, that was a good, crazy time in life. So I'm forever indebted to the Fourth Crusade. As far as big dumb riff death metal, I tend to lean more towards technicality in death metal. I don't really like super tech death. I don't really like progressive death metal, with a few exceptions. I like later period death, symbolic and stuff like that. But there's a good like Goldilocks zone. I talked about it on my best albums of the year video with Outer Heaven, the Prometheus and Bob ratio. It's a good blend of technicality and brutality. So that being said, I kind of had to think about this one and dig out some real dumb stuff. Very overlooked. Cyanide, The Dying Truth. Great band. They don't get a lot of credit. Obviously, the first couple of Obituary records, certainly those qualify as big dumb riffs, right? Common thread with this next entry, which is a bit of a guilty pleasure, I will say. Alan West, he must be a key component here because maybe like the penultimate big dumb riff death metal, 6 Feet Under, Haunted. And it took me a long time to get over the Graveyard Hits covers and some of the later 6 Feet Under stuff with the worst vocals that have ever been recorded. I watched them playing Dynamo. It popped up on YouTube and I was like working. I just let it go in the background and I was sold on the early 6 Feet Under stuff. So yeah, 6 Feet Under, Haunted, so sick. I'm going to get a little more into like slightly more technical stuff. I think it still qualifies though. Entombed, Wolverine Blues, pretty big, pretty dumb. Dismember, massive killing capacity, which I was introduced to by the Gate Creeper dudes. Obviously, clear influence there. I don't know if Carcass Heartwork qualifies because there's some very technical stuff on there, but there's also some big, dumb, I'm hearing them in my head right now, so I'll put that on there. Carcass Heartwork. More Midwest stuff, like Cyanide is Midwest, you know. Morta Scald, Dying Remains. Brujeria. Everybody knows about Matando Güeros, but I really like the Brujeismo. Mike Fury, am I saying that right? Brujeismo album. That's good. Dino from Fear Factory. Top 5 rhythm guitarists ever. Don't say he's not. I just watched his Garza episode and he referred to himself as a veterano, and I liked that a lot. I'm going to take that. What an inspiring guy. Yeah, Brujeismo. These guys got canceled, whatever, probably somewhat justifiably, but doesn't take away from the big, dumb, heavy, brutal fucking... This is an all-time great death metal record for me. Disma, Toward the Megalith. I kind of hesitate to shout them out because they have like Nazi ties and shit, but good God, it's hard to find extreme music without somebody sketchy in it. Sometimes assholes make really good music. Pentagram, dude. Talk about big riff energy. I wish I didn't know anything about Count Cracula. It's fucking hard to even listen to the shit sometimes. But you can't say he don't have big riff energy because he do. Hooded Menace, big dumb riffs for sure. My favorite Hooded Menace album by far is Ossuarium Silhouettes Unhallowed. So yeah, write them down, listen to them. Cyanide, The Dying Truth is the first one that came to mind. Next email from Bo. Dude, Babymetal and their fans have always struck me as creepy and way too defensive. Yes. Guilty. I've never understood the people that buy into fake cookie cutter industry plants. Well, I think I addressed that sufficiently. They got the fucking sucker gene. All right, another thing I wanted to ask you is if you think North Texas is oversaturated with venues for heavy bands to play at, or is there room for new places to open? Me and my wife have been thinking about opening a venue for about 10 years now. Man, there's always room for a venue run by people who really, really care about the music and the bands and are welcoming and hospitable to the bands that are coming through. There's plenty of venues in North Texas and everywhere else, but there's not plenty of venues like Crescent Ballroom in Phoenix, like the Mohawk in Austin, Saturn in Birmingham, Alabama, Sister Bar, Albuquerque, New Mexico, where you walk in and then people act like they want you to be there. So if you can do that, go for it, man. It'll be greatly appreciated. The thing is bands and touring people talk amongst themselves about the best venues in the country. And the things that we care about the most are just hospitality, man, and not writers and all that. It doesn't have to be fancy. keep your shit clean, man. Clean toilets. And just most importantly, act like you're excited for the band to be there. Whether you've heard the band, whether you like the band, doesn't fucking matter, man. Bands that are out there touring that ain't on a tour bus, and even the ones that are killing themselves to be on tour. The last fucking thing we want is to show up and somebody's hungover and barred out and fucking just act like they don't even want to be there that day. So if you can run a venue where you are nice to people, go for it. Why not? But keep in mind, anything having to do with, starting something music related from the ground up, it's just like starting a bar or a restaurant. You better have a lot of money you're just willing to say goodbye to for the first 5, maybe 10 years, And if you can make it through that, good for you. A lot of people do. Mike from Tucson. Mike bought a record on our Bandcamp. And dude, okay, in addition to the Babymetal fans freaking out, trying to cancel me, whatever, report me to the authorities. Some of them said that. We're going to report you to their management. We're going to report you to the producer that wrote all the songs. Okay, you're going to report me to the grown man who wrote a bunch of metal songs, and the first thing he thought was, I would start a band of people my age and play these songs, but you know what I'm going to do? Let me find 3 10-year-old girls, and I'll have them go up and karaoke this shit to my songs. Real normal. Yeah, I'm worried about being reported to that guy. But in addition to boosting my YouTube numbers, paying my water bill, we've been getting a lot more Bandcamp sales. So thank you again for that. If somebody's listening to this and you buy something from our Bandcamp, put a little note in there. Mention the podcast, whatever. I'll throw in something extra. If you have a question, put your question in there. I know your boy J-Dog at Hell's Headbangers. He'll have people ask questions in Hell's Headbangers orders, and he'll answer them. So I'll do that too, man. I think that's a cool idea. And that way I can kind of gauge like just how much this podcast is boosting sales and that sort of thing. Because in addition to being an artist, do need to keep the water turned on. Okay, so Mike, thank you for buying the record. Glad that this podcast is working. Here's his question. I was wondering how you became such a great guitarist. That's debatable. From your stories, it sounds like you've been playing for decades, but as a beginning guitarist myself, I was curious about your journey to learning the instrument. I find these types of things inspirational. It pushes me to keep learning. Thank you, and I hope you come to the Tucson area on tour in 2024. Mike, Tucson is my favorite part of Arizona. It's one of my favorite places ever. Y'all are some real motherfuckers, man. I love Tucson. I never had a bad time in Tucson. Something was always popping off. I got so many memories of insanity, and man, we rolled up to Congress one time, Hotel Congress. Eric, the dark cowboy from Gate Creeper, had sent me a video via text as I was driving into Tucson. I couldn't really see it. It like got compressed, Something was going down on the street. That's all I could tell. And I got to Club Congress, and there's a dude who had been swinging a machete around over his head, almost took some girl's head off that was walking, looking at her phone. Put your fucking phones away when you're walking around, especially in Tucson. But this other street dude who's very well known and kind of respected and beloved in the Tucson community, attacked this guy with a machete, took him down on the ground, was beating the shit out of him, disarmed him, saved some people's lives probably. And I get out of the car, and all this shit's going on right in front of me. And Eric is standing in between me and the chaos, just looking at me, shit-eating grin on his face. Fucking 10 cops pile out of their cars, draw their guns. And Eric's caught in the crossfire and just kind of does robot almost, trying not to get fucking shot by 100 bullets from these cops, and they broke it up. They knew the guy that was fucking up the dude with the machete. They're like, "Hey, get off of him. Come on, man." And everything was fine. But that's, dude, so many memories in Tucson like that. I love it. Reminds me of Little Rock, What was the question? Oh, yeah. Guitar. Yeah, dude, when I heard Purple Haze, I was like, that's what I'm doing. I can play guitar. And I was just learning stuff by ear. Didn't really have access to tabs. I would just kind of sit there and figure it out. Listen to Hendrix. I took some lessons. I've mentioned him before on this podcast. Ray Sales, man, rest in peace. Like old school blues dude. Bartlesville, Oklahoma, man. Bartlesville's finest. Great guy. And he showed me some stuff. I think he sort of clued me in on the pentatonic scale. Learn the pentatonic scale, dude. It's every Black Sabbath song, a lot of rock songs. Just learn the pentatonic scale. You can find it online. It's so much easier now to find this stuff. I sort of lost interest for a minute there, and then I heard Metallica and Sabbath and Slayer, and dude, yeah, I would just sit with the records and just figure the shit out. I'll sit, put one headphone on or one earbud in, try to figure that out. You know, listen to the other side. Just you either have the ear or you don't. I don't think you're either born with that. I'm fortunate enough. That's one of the few natural talents I would say that I was lucky enough, fortunate enough to just be born with, is being able to hear stuff and duplicate it. If you need some help, there's no shame in that. There's tons of shit on YouTube that'll show you exactly how to play stuff. And it's no different than anything else. You have to do it every day, not every other day, not when you feel like it. You should feel like doing it every day if you love it. But even if you don't, especially when you don't, do it every day. Do it every single day and you'll get better. Kirk, curious on what you think of Black Label Society / Zakk Wylde. There seems to be a fair amount of hate out there for Zakk, especially now with the Pantera thing. And who gives a fuck? People on Twitter. I get how he might not be everyone's cup of tea, but to me, he's just an OG road dog out there stacking paper. You fucking right, dude. He does the BLS stuff, Book of Shadows, Zach Sabbath, Jimi Hendrix, now Pantera. He started his own gear brand. Dude is always working. Anyway, I think he is really underrated as a singer-songwriter. The Blessed, Hellride, and Mafia are classic albums. Interested in your take on this stuff. You said it, man. He's a fucking OG of OGs. The bottom line, he's one of the best guitar players that ever lived. I don't give a shit if you like him or like his playing or like his music or like the way that he does his head side to side. That shit fucking drives me crazy. That's my only gripe with Zakk, is the fucking side to side head thing that he does. But no, dude, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. He's one of the best. He played with fucking Ozzy. Ozzy just doesn't hire, Sharon just doesn't hire people that suck. Period. Whether you like him or not. He's sort of turned himself into a meme, which is what you got to do these days. You know, most popular metal bands right now are more beloved for their meme making abilities than they are their music, you know? So, somebody that's helping him stack that paper is wise. And, you know, just having him lean into like the pro wrestling biker Sons of Anarchy thing a little bit, that's good, man. It's brilliant marketing, the stuff that he's done with Black Label and like the patches and the gear. And, you know, he's really created like a community, and you can't knock him for that. Bottom line, you're never going to get online hate from somebody that's doing better than you. Literally has never happened in the history of the world. So any of these people that are hating on Zakk Wylde, they are certainly not doing better than him. So let them fucking hate. My favorite Zakk Wylde performance is the album No More Tears, because I think he really dialed down the fucking pentatonic insanity, which, side note, he has a instructional video on YouTube called like pentatonic mayhem or pentatonic fucking nuclear fucking whatever, pentatonic something, pentatonic fucking chaos. But yeah, on No More Tears, he kind of dials that down. It plays more tastefully and soulfully. It's really memorable stuff. I love the first two Black Label albums. When I was really getting into metal, I was listening to that a lot, picking up licks off of him. I love, one of them had bonus tracks of like acoustic Heart of Gold, Neil Young cover, not Heart of Glass, Heart of Gold, and acoustic Snowblind, Black Sabbath cover. It was really, really good. His voice, you know, you can kind of form your own opinion on that, whatever. Some people love it, some people don't. It is what it is. I I love that first Pride and Glory record. His voice on that is fucking incredible. Check out Machine Gun Man or Losing Your Mind on the Pride and Glory record that Zakk Wylde played on. If you haven't heard that, really good stuff. He plays like Hendrix on Machine Gun Man, and he sounds like sort of Allman Brothers-y, singing really well on that one. Yeah, dude, he's done more with his life than 99.9% of people do. Oh, and just a weird coincidental tie-in, the Black Label live album that came out around probably 2003 or something like that. They play this song Super Terrorizer, and there's a break right before it hits into like a breakdown, and it goes silent, and it's a live album, and he goes, "Limp Bizkit sucks dick." And people loved that shit back then, man. If you were like a real metalist or whatever, loved it. Nobody was arguing with that. I don't know what happened. Okay. Sean from Las Vegas. You were talking about vocals and how you go about finding your tones, singing along to your favorite vocalists. I don't play any instruments as of yet, but I'm really interested in singing and developing my voice. I've been listening to a lot of power metal lately. A lot of what you hear from that genre is singers who have tons of range and can usually go pretty high with it. How do you feel about power metal and vocalists who have amazingly high vocal range? Some bands/singers that come to mind are Beast in Black. I feel like we saw them at Hellfest, maybe. Stradivarius. Not power metal, but Olaf Wickstrand from Enforcer. We definitely saw Enforcer at Hellfest. We met a couple of those dudes. Tom D introduced me to a couple of them, but we had just all separately met Steve Harris from Iron Maiden. So we were all just kind of like fucking shell shocked, you know. I talked to one of those dudes. I was like, "How's it going?" And he's just like, bub. We all were, man. Fucking met Steve Harris. But I like that band a lot. I like Enforcer a lot. I'm not really into power metal, dude. As far into that as I'll go is like, I wouldn't even say they're power metal, but Crypt Sermon, Eternal Champion. Mike from Yob preaches on the early Manowar stuff. I can get down with that. Saxon isn't really power metal, but it's kind of that vocal style. People have tried to get me into power metal. Halloween, Keeper of the Seven Keys. It's a little too corny or something. I looked at it, shit's got to have a fucking edge, man. It's got to have an edge. If it's all just opera singing type stuff and no like, all right, perfect power metal vocal, and this is going to really piss people off. Scott Rieger's St. Vitus Die Healing. He sings super operatic, but he does that. He does like lunatic sounding shit. Like it'll just disintegrate off into like howling, and it's got an edge, man. And I feel like he really inspired that singer from Burning Witch. Definitely not power metal at all. But if I'm listening to high, super epic vocals, there's got to be like an edge or an insanity to it. I can't feel like I'm listening to a High School Musical or an opera. So that's my stance on power metal. Tony, Fast and Bulbous. Tony lives out here by me. Fast and Bulbous is a cool zine online now, but it's been around for fucking forever. Hey, Nate, I was at Lowe's today getting more supplies to continue my critter-proofing saga. He's got a skunk living under the house that squeezes right through the gap in the animal fencing. Anyway, Tony says, a guy working at Lowe's saw my Sabbath back patch, said he's in a Sabbath cover band called War Pigs, and they just lost their singer. I said I'd spread the word and we'll send his info to Jeff Henson also, who knows everyone. Jeff Henson does know everyone. Shit, man. I always said that my dream gig, I used to do AV and stagehand stuff in Phoenix, and I worked a lot of casino shows. And the cool thing about playing a casino, you get paid out the ass. Hospitality, again, you get to eat and drink whatever you want. And when the day is done, you don't have to get in a vehicle. You don't have to do anything. You go upstairs and you go to your suite and you get paid a lot. And I always said my dream job would be Not Tony, Geezer in a Black Sabbath tribute band and only tour and play casinos. My friend Bruce is Robert Plant in Led Zeppelin 2. I don't know if anybody's ever seen that band. I was like, whatever. Bruce sings for Yakuza as well. He played saxophone on my old band's record. Cool ass dude, Chicago dude. And when I heard he was in this Led Zeppelin tribute band, I was like, well, that's whatever. That's cool. I went and saw Led Zeppelin 2 in Phoenix, and I was like out of my mind for a minute because I have seen whatever year they're replicating on that Led Zeppelin DVD. I'd seen it so many times. All of a sudden, I'm standing in the middle of it. They looked, sounded, played, same gear, same mannerisms. It was, I'm never going to be able to see Led Zeppelin with John Bonham. And so I saw Led Zeppelin 2 and lost my goddamn mind, man. And if there was ever a Sabbath tribute band that needed a geezer, he's right-handed. I look close enough to like 79 geezer. My hair's not curly enough, but I can play. Dude, he's my number one bass inspiration. I love him. Love everything he does. Everything I do on bass came straight from him. That's my dream gig, dude. So yeah, I don't know if I want to be the singer, but War Pigs, if y'all lose your bass player, call me up, dude. That's my dream job. I also want to shout out Tony, who wrote this email. He does his year-end list for Fast and Bulbous. He put Spirit Adrift Ghosts at the Gallows at number 1 on his metal list. He has always supported us, covered us, preached the word, even when very few people cared. So, Tony, you're the man. Dude, hopefully I'll run into you at Astro Records store one of these days because I have quite a bit of credit accumulated over there. Don't ask me why. John, we're almost done here, guys, and I'm going to let you get on with your Thanksgiving. John, I also don't know a ton about the Japanese idol industry, but I didn't really think it was run by pedophiles. Thought it was just corporate manufactured pop music like Britney Spears or Lady Gaga or whatever. Yeah, you're right, dude. I'm not saying there's like a organized fucking cabal of child molesters. I just look at what happened to Britney Spears. Listen to Dave Chappelle talk about the entertainment industry and his experience with it. He gives that story about Iceberg Slim, the old famous pimp, as a parallel to how it works. It's not paranoia to recognize the fact that the success, the money, the celebrity, all of the trappings and inner workings and the ecosystem of that is rife with people with the fucking sociopath gene. And whether that manifests itself in being a pedophile or a damn Weinstein, weird, or Louis C.K. jacking off into a plant for some fucking reason, there's a lot of that, man. And there's just a lot of that in all walks of life, I think, but especially when you're dealing with power and money and manipulation, politics, fame, anything like that. I mean, look, you say Britney Spears, look at how she turned out, man. Now imagine putting 3 girls that are 10 years old into a system like that. I mean, you're kind of just proving my point here. I don't know about Lady Gaga. She seems to have held up pretty well, but yeah, you're just proving my point, dude. And what I said was they market it as child predators, which it is. If you wrote a bunch of metal songs and you're like, I want 3 10-year-old girls, I'm going to put them in a system where their life is never going to be the same. They're never going to recover from it. They're never going to have a fucking, quote, normal life. It's going to fuck their whole shit up. It's like child actors, How many of them made it unscathed through that shit? You're a child predator if you do that. I'm not saying, you're breaking the law necessarily, not all of them, obviously, but you are preying on and exploiting children, right? And they marketed it. I don't care what anybody says about fucking Japanese culture, okay? If you want a Japanese band with a girl in it, which most of these people attacking me are fucking obsessed with girls in bands, okay, it's fine, but why are you so goddamn obsessed with it? And Japanese culture, right? Listen to Boris, you fucking morons. Wata, you want to talk about, dude, big riff energy? Come on. What the fuck was I saying? Oh, yeah. I said that Babymetal was manufactured by child predators. That's not debatable. That's not fucking debatable. And I asked if, at the very least, in the back of their minds, they know that they are marketing it towards people that are attracted to children. You would have to be fucking blind to not think that factored in the back of somebody's mind or was conscious, like a conscious decision. Give me a fucking break. But at the very least, yeah, I mean, look at how Britney Spears turned out. And she wasn't 10 years old when she was plugged into the fucking grinding gears of that fucked up thing, you know? All right, your question. Have you listened to Wraith? I think they're from Indiana. Yeah, they're a great thrash band similar to Enforced. Yeah, I have listened to Wraith. I like that band a lot. Go check them out. I know they've put records out recently, but they're one of the better modern day thrash bands for sure. So shout out to Wraith. We think they are from Indiana. I thought they were from St. Louis, but I could be wrong. Seth hit me with the Saturday, there's no more school. I think it's Saturday, there's no more school. Yeah, he goes down. It's Saturday, there's no more school. The Annihilator lyric, right? Can't get away from it. Seth says, your top 10 albums of the year video popped up in my feed, and I instantly subscribed after watching it. You're turning me on to new bands I haven't heard and older bands I may have overlooked. I'd always been into horror movies growing up here in Alaska, but I'd never really given metal a chance till the mid-90s. Black Album, then I heard Ride the Lightning. They changed the way I listen to music. I started searching for heavier and faster stuff using an AMG kiosk at my local record store. Ever see one of those? And Metal Maniacs magazine is my resources. Is that the thing where you can go and like put the headphones on and scroll through like stuff that just came out? Because I think, yeah, if that's what it is, yeah, I use the same thing. Finally, I had heard of Spirit Adrift before I saw your video, but hadn't checked you out yet. When I realized it was your band, I had to give a listen. Great stuff. I can honestly say you're one of my new favorite bands now. I love Metallica, Sabbath, COC, Maiden, Mastodon, Eternal Champion. All right, me too. And your band is right there with all of them. Thank you, man. That's cool. That's some of my favorite bands as well. I love great riffs and hooks, just stuff that I keep wanting to go back to, and you write the kind of music that just hits a sweet spot. You have a new lifelong listener. Thanks for taking the time and for the great music. Cheers, man. No question in there, but just some Thanksgiving cheer and joy. And I'm grateful for you guys, man. And I'm grateful for the fucking Babymetal mentally defective freaks that freaked out over the last video. Because, man alive, you guys literally put money in my pocket, which I'm not doing this for the money, but it's nice to have, you know, the mailbox money stacks up. And so I don't have to go clock in and take shit from fucking dudes in Babymetal shirts uploading Ted Bundy victim tribute videos at the gas station. You know, I can stay here and work on big riffs and stuff. So, man, grateful to everybody that listens to this. Grateful to everybody that supports Spirit Adrift. Grateful to the fucking pedophile Power Rangers trying to cancel me. We're going to talk about some more death metal, man. I was decompressing the other night, and for whatever reason, I decided it was time to listen to Marduk, Panzer Division Marduk, to decompress. I don't know. I'm wired backwards, I guess. I'm not really a black metal dude. I didn't realize Marduk was Swedish. I thought they were Norwegian. And I tend to lean more towards the Swedish stuff. Dissection, Craft, those are my two favorites. I like Dark Throne. I like some of the Norwegian stuff. I've honestly been kind of coming around to Mayhem too. Darkham, Mayhem, Evil and Darkness, Joe. But anyway, I put on Panzer Division Marduk, and holy shit, what a great album. They set out to make the most relentless, fucking unstoppable. I mean, look at the cover. You know what you're getting into, man. How can you not want to listen to that? I don't know why it took me so long. But anyway, yeah, loved it. As far as black metal goes, just I love anything that is like focusing that much intention on this is going to be the most relentless, fucking unstoppable, hateful. All it is like World War II samples of people getting blown up and nonstop fucking blasting and evil and the most hateful, evil, war-filled, fucking just awesome, man. I love anything that's that fucking extreme. But this is not the album discussion, believe it or not. There were guitar breaks where the tone or the something, the production, even the vocals a little bit sometimes reminded me of maybe my favorite Malevolent Creation record. Malevolent Creation is top 5 death metal bands for me, for sure. Everybody knows their first 2 records are fucking amazing, legendary. Retribution is probably my favorite. It's one of my favorite death metal records ever made. But a lot of people don't know about Envenomed. And Panzer Division Marduk came out in 99. Envenomed came out in 2000. So that would explain some of the sonic similarities. And here again is another record where it just seems like these dudes had a powwow and were like, okay, you guys want to really, and you try to do this every time with whatever you're doing. But sometimes the stars aligned. You know, they had kind of a super group lineup. Brett Hoffman, the OG singer, my favorite death metal vocalist ever. You know, I talk a lot about how Cannibal Corpse and Corpse Grinder are the greatest. Right now, they are. Brett Hoffman's no longer with us. But as far as if I'm going to listen to a death metal singer, Brett Hoffman is the best by far ever. And nobody comes close for my taste. No one fucking comes close. Anyway, he'd been out of the band for a minute, and he came back a couple records before this one, but now they really like found their footing. They got Rob Barrett back in the band, and I think he's been back in the band for a couple records. Oh, by the way, I just got it on the screen. This is the first record that I've talked about that I don't own a physical copy of, but it's in the mail. I ordered a Back on Black reissue that came out last year, so it's almost here. I'm breaking my rule this one time, but it's checks in the mail. So yeah, they got Rob Barrett back. They got Brett Hoffman back. Phil, obviously, who writes all the riffs. Dave Colross, one of the fucking gnarliest, most machine-like drummers ever. Uncle Rob introduced me to Colross one time in Florida, I think it was. And Steve from Deicide was there too. But dude, this record, yeah, came out in 2000. Everybody knows the old records are good, so I feel like it kind of slipped under a lot of people's records. It is one of the best, most relentless, heaviest, brutal, gnarliest death metal records ever made. My favorite thing that Brett Hoffman does is, and Mike from Yob and I talked about this a lot when we toured together. We talked about this every day, trying to like replicate it. But he does this thing where I think he starts with his mouth closed. And I don't know how this guy has the lung capacity to do this, but he'll go like, and he slowly opens his mouth, and dude, no one else does that. No one else has ever fucking come close to this guy. Listen to the second track on Envenomed. What the hell is it called? I don't have it in front of me. But it's probably like halfway through the song. It's usually when they hit a build or something. And dude, he will do this like closed mouth growl that mutates and transforms into just like the most. It sounds like a fucking crazy person. It sounds like an animal or something. It doesn't sound like a dude that's like singing in a metal band, using proper technique and making sure he's doing everything right. It sounds like a guy that's like, I don't know, in the process of like murdering people. It's fucking awesome. It's awesome. He's the best death metal vocalist ever. I will hear nothing to the contrary. And dude, Envenomed is some of their best work. It's just fucking brutal and exciting. Big riffs, memorable. It's so brutal, but it has verses and choruses and like memorable parts that stick with you. Songs, dude. Because you can be as brutal and technical and show-offy as you want, but if it's not in the context of a memorable song, you're fucking wasting your time. You're wasting our time too. We like big riffs here. If you like big riffs and death metal, been talking about it a lot today. And if you're like a random Babymetal fan that really has too much time on your hands and you made it through this far, put on Malevolent Creation, Envenomed. Listen to it 3 times. Put on Marduk, Panzer Division Marduk. Listen to it 3 times. Then go through that list that I did of big DUMB riffs. Whatever, Cyanide and 6 Feet Under. Maybe you should start with that. That might be easier. But listen to Envenomed by Malevolent Creation. Prepare to have your fucking mind blown all the way out of your head. All right. Hey, it's the holidays, man. It's a tough time for people with mental health issues, people with addiction issues. I don't ever really get serious on here. This whole thing is one big bit. You haven't figured it out. I'm protected by a force field of apathy when I'm talking about anything that's not big riffs. So, very rarely will I drop that, but yeah, it's a tough time of year if you struggle. And I think the last few years, you know, people have always struggled, but the last few years, I think we can all say that we're struggling in one form or another. And don't let it get to you, man. Don't let it get to you. Bad shit happens to people around the holidays. It can be a tough time. If you're listening to this and you're struggling or whatever, dude, fucking write me an email. Write me an email. What's fascinating about the Babymetal cancel fucking Power Rangers or whatever, nobody really emailed me. There were like 2 of them, and they were the scripted thing. And a couple of y'all that are like frequent listeners, sort of, you weren't defending them, but just kind of discussing them. So I know you guys are real, whatever. But it was all comments, and it was all like, yeah, nobody actually took the time to email me. Which, what the fuck did I say at the end of the last episode? That inbox going to stay empty. And it's, dude, it stayed empty. I heard from y'all that listen to this and support this podcast and the band as usual, but I didn't hear from any of those Jonestown suicide cult type people. But anyway, man, I'm fucking scatterbrained. If you're listening to this and you're feeling some kind of fucking way about Thanksgiving or Christmas or the year coming up, you know, we got a few months left in this year. Been a tough year, dude, for a lot of people, and you're not alone. Email me. And if you just want somebody to talk to, you don't want me to talk about it on the podcast, just say that and I fucking won't. I promise you. You have my word. If you are a Babymetal fan and you're just, fuck, man, one of those people that I mentioned that there's nothing, you're not like a pervert and you're not, there's nothing violent or vile going on in your head, and you just like whatever, like Star Wars fans or Disneyland fans or what the fuck ever. You know, you're not alone either. I'm not. The thing I did last week wasn't to attack people that are having a hard time. I wouldn't do that. You know, I don't like corporate manufactured fucking weird creepiness interloping and intruding into the space of Big Riff Energy. That's all it was. I'm going to fucking say something about it. When I was 15, I'll throw goddamn sandwiches and quarters at you until you fucking cried. True story. I'm always going to do something about that. But I'm not trying to, you know, I legitimately felt sad last week, dude. I wasn't even angry. I was just like, God damn, there's like so many people out there that need something, that need some fucking purpose in their life. And you'll find it, man. But just know that you're not alone. And I'm genuinely sorry if there's any Babymetal fans out there that aren't perverts and I hurt your feelings. I fucking doubt it. Write me, Spirit Adrift. No. That's my other email. Write me, BIGRIFFENERGY@gmail.com. If you order something on our Bandcamp, it's me shipping it out. Write me a little note if you heard about us through this podcast, or if you're buying stuff because of this podcast or whatever, and I'll throw in some extra stuff. Cheers, guys. Happy Thanksgiving, man. It's a bullshit holiday. We're on fucking stolen land that we got through genocide. But, and regardless of that, you should be fucking thankful and grateful for everything you got every single day. because some of y'all might not make it to Thanksgiving. It happens. I might not make it to Thanksgiving. You never know. Get hit by a fucking meteor tomorrow. You really think they would tell us? I don't. Yeah, so be thankful today, man. And enjoy your holidays and listen to Malevolent Creation Envenomed. Fuck yeah. See you next episode.